Amita, we just wanted to welcome you back and just to let you know that we all so much appreciated the sharing yesterday by yourself and Ritika and Anuradha. It was absolutely lovely to hear, and especially personal journey. So we appreciate that, and at the same time, very much looking forward today to your talk. I know Savitri has been just an incredible part of your spiritual journey. And so today you will be sharing with us a little bit more on the importance of Savitri in living an integral life. And as in yesterday, we will also have time for some questions for Amita. Amita, with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
I just wanted to, before I begin, ask, has anyone not read or heard of Savitri here in the audience? Okay. So there are about 3 or 4 people. Okay. So Savitri, for those who have heard about it for the first time, Savitri is a poem written by Sri Aurobindo. It has 24,000 lines written in the iambic pentameter. And Sri Aurobindo there has taken from the legend of the Mahabharata, the story of Savitri and Satyavan, a story of conjugal love, and he in fact writes about it in the preface of the book. And he has converted this legend in the Mahabharata to something more, a symbol for a vehicle for telling the story of a new world. He's completely transformed the legend, but keeping the overall outline. And he has transformed it, as he says, a legend into a legend and a symbol. And you will see when you read Savitri, that the story runs very similar to the legend in the Mahabharata, which is, the conquest of Savitri over death because of her love for Satyavan, her husband. But many, many new elements have been put in here. However, let's get into that page. In this Savitri, in Sri Aurobindo Savitri, Satyavan is the soul carrying the divine truth of being within itself, but descended into the grip of death and ignorance. Savitri is the divine word, daughter of the sun, goddess of the supreme truth, who comes down and is born to save. Ashwapati, the lord of the horse, her human father, is the lord of tapasya, the concentrated energy of spiritual endeavor that helps us to rise from the mortal to the immortal planes. Dyumatsena, lord of the shining horse, who is the father of Satyavan, is the divine mind, here fallen blind, and so on. So the overall story of Savitri is very simple, and yet the way that he has used each character, he has actually turned them into symbols. And he says that, they are concrete living beings whom you can come in touch with. And that is the power of Savitri. Now, why did Sri Aurobindo write Savitri? Sri Aurobindo wrote Savitri as a means for his own yogic tapasya, as a means for the ascension of his own consciousness from the reaches of the mind to the higher mind, to the overmental, and so on. And he used, and he kept revising Savitri, trying to write it from a higher and a deeper consciousness. In fact, he said, it is not written from the mind. It is written from a very deep consciousness. And that is why Savitri has great importance for us who are trying to lead an integral life. I want to read just this one line from his own words, where he writes about this. I used Savitri as a means of ascension. I began with it on a certain mental level, and each time I could reach a higher level, I rewrote it from that level. Moreover, I was particular. If part seemed to me to come from any lower level, I was not satisfied to leave it because it was good poetry. All had to be, as far as possible, of the same mint. In fact, Savitri has not been regarded by me as a poem to be written and finished, but as a field of experimentation to see how far poetry could be written from one's own yogic consciousness and how that could be made creative. And just as Sri Aurobindo used it as a means of ascension, we too can use it each time when we read Savitri as a means of our own growth, the growth into a deeper and deeper level of consciousness. I want to come to about 5 important reasons why one should read Savitri and why it is important and how it is important for one's integral growth. One could have named this talk The Importance of Savitri for Spiritual Growth, but actually it is important not just for one's spiritual growth, but for also the growth of all the parts and planes of one's consciousness, for integral growth. And if you see in Savitri, it is when one reads Savitri, Mother says that new brain cells are formed. There is, to be able to understand Savitri, the old consciousness is incapable of doing so because it is stationed in the purely mental, rational consciousness. One needs to develop an intuitive consciousness, an illumined consciousness, a consciousness of the inner being. And for that, new brain cells have to grow. And therefore, Savitri helps those brain cells to get formed. You read this wonderful poem, Thy golden light came down into my brain, and the grey rooms of mine sun-touched became, a bright reply to wisdom's occult plane, a calm illumination and a flame. These words actually is a precise description of what happens to our own mind and our own brain when we read Savitri. As far as the vital consciousness goes, the consciousness of desire, of the strong vital passions, Savitri helps to purify and bring forward the true vital. It just does it by your reading it. The mind and the body especially, has a deep, deep resonance, and Savitri has a great influence over the physical consciousness. Those who have read Savitri will understand what I'm saying. There are passages and passages in Savitri that can be used for healing. In fact, Amal Kiran once shared with me that Sri Aurobindo had marked a passage for him when he had to often fall, and when he had a fracture, he said, read it, it will help to heal the body. So Savitri obviously is written from such a deep and high consciousness. In fact, Sri Aurobindo said it is written from the highest over mental consciousness. And therefore that power penetrates into the cells of the body, the cells of the brain, and transforms them. Mother once said, she wrote to, or Mona Sarkar has written in this book that, Mother said that when you read Savitri, there is a resonance in the lines which comes to the sum of Om. So each line of Savitri resonates and you get the vibration of Om. Now that vibration, as you know, is the primordial sound. And Savitri has that very, very powerful effect in that even though it's written in English, it's written in the iambic pentameter, it has the old Vedic, the deep resonance of how the mantra is written. So Savitri is purely mantric poetry. And this mantra then begins to reverberate in your consciousness. In fact, lines of Savitri pop up when one is in difficulty or when one needs to know something. And it's because of this mantric quality of the lines that it has this effect. I wanted to read this one passage which is in Savitri about the power of the mantra. And it's especially true for Savitri itself when you read it. As when the mantra sinks in yoga's ear, its message enters, stirring the blind brain, and keeps in the dim, ignorant cells its sound. The hearer understands a form of words, and musing on the index thought it holds, he strives to read it with the laboring mind, but finds bright hints, not the embodied truth. Then, falling silent in himself to know, he meets the deeper listening of his soul. The word repeats itself in rhythmic strains. Thought, vision, feeling, sense, the body's self, are seized unutterably, and he endures an ecstasy and an immortal change. He feels a wideness and becomes a power. All knowledge rushes on him like a sea, transmuted by the white spiritual ray. He walks in naked heavens of joy and calm, sees the God face, and hears transcendent speech. An equal greatness in her life was so. So this passage is from Savitri on the power of the mantra, and it exactly describes the power of the mantric quality of Savitri. The next very, very important thing that Savitri does for us is its extraordinary power to, and let me read that directly from the mother, the extraordinary part has to overcome depression, any kind of despair, any kind of despondency. So here the mother notes, she had shared this with Mona Sarkar in the book Luminous Notes. If you are depressed, if you feel miserable, if you do not succeed in what you do, or else if what happens is always the contrary of what you expect, however much you try, if it has come to such a pass that you lose your temper, life becomes disgusting, and you are unhappy, then immediately take Savitri, and after a moment's concentration, open it at any page and read. You will see that all your misery disappears like smoke, and you will have the strength to overcome the worst sorrows. You will no longer feel that which was tormenting you. Instead, you will feel a strange happiness, a reversal of consciousness, and so on. Just read a few lines, and that is enough to establish the contact with your inmost being. Such is the extraordinary power of Savitri. And some of us have had that experience. Whenever there is an important question that we need to ask, or something that we need to know, if we concentrate and in silence and open any page of Savitri randomly, we get the light or the knowledge and the answer to that question. It has that power. In fact, it is the scripture of the future. It is the Veda of the supermind. It is the book that is a book that is written now, but it is written far ahead of its time. Its meaning, its power, its worldwide appeal will be something that we will only see perhaps in centuries to come. Savitri is also the record of Sri Aurobindo's yoga. It is in the words of Ashwapati. If you read the book of the Traveler of the Worlds, you will see the full description of Ashwapati's and Sri Aurobindo's own spiritual sadhana. And Savitri is indeed, as the mother often shared, a record of her spiritual experiences. Often she would go to Sri Aurobindo in the morning and said, when Sri Aurobindo would read the lines of Savitri, and she would say, "Oh, but I had this experience last night. And this, you have described exactly what I've gone through." And this was something that, has such deep, deep reverberations, because you are reading actually the autobiographical, spiritual, supramental experiences of two of the greatest avatars of the future in this book. We don't realize the power that this book has, but the more we read it, the more we will realize how it changes us. It brings forward the psychic being. It brings forward the inner mind. It brings forward the inner consciousness. It heals the body. Knowledge starts welling up from within. So many things happen to us when we read Savitri. And that is why Savitri is both the path, the way, the guide, and the practice for the integral yoga. There are 4 great aids in Savitri that I'd like to mention. There are others, but the ones that have stood out for me. One is mantra. I've already briefly touched on that. And what Sri Aurobindo says about the mantra is important. This is one line. The mantra, as I have tried to describe it, is a word of power and light that comes from the overmind inspiration, or from some very high plane of intuition. Its characteristics are a language that conveys infinitely more than the mere surface sense of the words, seems to indicate a rhythm that means even more than the language. Just listen to these words. So it seems to convey a rhythm that means even more than the language and is born out of the infinite and disappears into it, this rhythm. And that is the wonderful quality of mantra. And that is why it has this deep effect into the consciousness. And the power to convey not merely the mental, vital, or physical contents or indications or values of the thing uttered, but its significance and figure in some fundamental and original consciousness which is behind all these and greater. So the first aid that Savitri provides us is through its mantric quality. The second is tapasya. Through Savitri, we learn how to persevere. When Savitri stood against death and said, I will not turn back. My love is greater than your power. Perseverance, endurance. Savitri's wrestle with death. Ashwapati's, um, uh, deep and intense aspiration for the mother and the moon that he got. So the tapasya, how to do tapasya, what is tapasya, that comes through as the second aid in Savitri, and you will see it throughout the book. The third is nirpaksha samarpan, an absolute surrender. And as you know, Sri Aurobindo in many conversations and with sadhaks has said, his method, he said, my method of yoga is through surrender. And surrender is certainly the way that Ashwapati, if you see, embodies in Savitri. The fourth is premasya shakti, which is the power of love. The only power that can conquer death. And Savitri embodies that power. The power of love. Love can conquer death, no other power. And why love? Because love is the vibration of unity, of oneness, of identity. And there is, when you love something in someone, you can overreach yourself. And this love, when it is taken up to its highest level of divine love, these are steps which Savitri then has to undergo. And this love for Satyavan is the love, actually Satyavan is a symbol. Once Temi Ben called me and she said, I want to ask you a question. And I want to tell you something, in fact, she said. This was in Golkund many years ago. So I was reading Savitri those days, and she says, do you know who Satyavan is? I said, yes, I do. She said, no. Is there a Satyavan? Does Satyavan exist? I was really taken aback. She said, go and find out. She wouldn't give me the answer. I came back the next time. I studied, went back, looked again, tried to figure out what she's trying to tell me. And then she said, I'll give you a hint. There is no Satyavan. I was quite taken aback by those words. And I went back and I started reading Savitri again. What did she mean? This was a love story of Savitri and Satyavan, and Temi Ben, who's studied Savitri, teaches Savitri in the school, is telling me there is no Satyavan. Then who is Satyavan? And then I came back and she said only one thing to me, and many years later she said, Satyavan is a symbol. I realized he symbolized the soul of the earth. And Savitri's yoga was the yoga of the transformation of the earth of the body. And Satyavan was the vehicle that helped her to reach her highest potential. Now, these are very, very occult things. We have to discover them ourselves. There are many interpretations. This is one of them. But in any case, the power of love over death is something that is all over Savitri. And passages and fabulous passages of that you could read. I will end finally with what is the best way to read Savitri? You know, people ask and say that we've tried to read, but we can't understand. Well, how do you read Savitri to be able to understand it? And here again, I will turn to the mother's own words, because they are the most illuminating. Mother had spoken these words to Mona Sarkar in the early 1960s. She said about Savitri, "You must not read Savitri as you read other books or newspapers. You must read with an empty head, a blank and vacant mind, without there being any other thought. You must concentrate much, remain empty, calm and open. Then the words, the rhythms, the vibrations will penetrate directly to this white page, will put their stamp upon the brain, will explain themselves without your making an effort. Savitri alone is sufficient to make you climb to the highest peaks. If truly one knows how to meditate on Savitri, one will receive all the help one needs. For one who wishes to follow this path, it is a visible help, as though the Lord Himself were taking you by the hand and leading you to the destined goal. And then every question, however personal it may be, has its answer there. Every difficulty finds here its solution. Indeed, there is everything that is necessary for doing the yoga. And I'd like to end with one of my most favorite passages in Savitri. Nothing like listening to Savitri itself in a talk on Savitri. When darkness deepens, strangling the earth's breast, and man's corporeal mind is the only lamp, as a thief's in the night shall be the covert tread of one who steps unseen into his house. A voice ill-heard shall speak, the soul obey, a power into mind's inner chamber steal, a charm and sweetness open life's closed doors, and beauty conquer the resisting world. The truth light, capture nature by surprise, a stealth of God, compel the heart to bliss, and earth grow unexpectedly divine. In matter shall be lit the Spirit's glow, a few shall see what none yet understands. God shall grow up while the wise men talk and sleep, for man shall not know the coming till its hour, and belief shall be not till the work is done. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. I think what we'd like to do, if it's okay with you, is just take a moment or two of silence to give us the opportunity to process the lovely and beautiful messages that you share, and then we'll go on with questions. Can you hear Anita? You can hear? I just wanted to share for a moment my own entry into Savitri. Many or some of you may have had the same. When I first opened Savitri and started to read maybe 10 years ago, well, I went in with a very mental attitude, mental mind, and I had notes on the side. I had a 100-page document, Word doc that was indexed. I was reading everything I could about each passage and inserting it. And I will tell you, after a few months of that, I realized I just had to put it aside until I could evolve a little bit more past this mental mind that then happened to get very developed in the business world, so it wasn't very helpful when it comes to reading something as profound as Savitri. So it actually took several years until I went back in. So I just wanted to share that because hearing Anita's deep, profound experiences with Savitri, it reminded me of what I had to kind of overcome so that I could have a few glimpses of those same experiences. So with that, I'd just like to open it for any comments or questions. Yes?
Follow up on what you just said. I had same kind of experience when I first picked up Savitri. I read a few lines. I would just start crying. I couldn't go any further. I just tried a few times and then I let it go. We hear the word. Really take it in.
We try to listen to Amalkiran's recitation. We go into the Satra mode. Every day we listen to him for 10-15 minutes and just absorb it because he has such a beautiful rhythm, unbroken song. That's how we listen to Savitri. I do have a question. The character of Narad, which is coming in Sri Aurobindo Savitri, is there a same character in the Mahabharata Savitri?
Yes. Vladimir, you can answer. Yes, I think there is. But Vladimir, you can answer that better than I can. Hello? Can you hear me? Sorry? I can. But in the Mahabharata, Narad is there, and he has the same role. But of course, Sri Aurobindo amplifies it, and certainly there is, he plays a similar role in the Mahabharata. So he takes it from there, yes. He has the same role to come in and prophesize that, there's going to be, that if Savitri marries, then this is going to happen. But of course, Sri Aurobindo's, way of writing about Narad, when the exposition that Narad gives on pain and the necessity of pain. Pain is the hammer of God. to break a dead resistance in man's heart and so on. Those wonderful verses are obviously his own original. Sorry?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you for spending time with us this morning here in your evening. Thank you. My question to you is, Savitri is a roadmap for future humanity. How we prepare for it, and what is that future roadmap for humanity?
How to prepare for it, and what is that future roadmap for humanity? Is that the question?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is a very, very, very important and a very powerful question. Thank you for asking it. How do you prepare for the future? How do you prepare for the new consciousness, for the new yoga? I'm going to answer that from a personal perspective because I don't have an answer for everybody, but I know how I'm doing it and how I feel about that. So I'm going to make it a personal answer. It is Savitri that can prepare you for the future. There is no other text that has the consciousness of the future embedded in every single word that is written. And if you want to prepare for the new yoga, for the supramental yoga, for the new consciousness, you want to change the old animal way of thinking, the old animal impulses, what Mother keeps talking about. The only way to do it is to read Savitri. Because Sri Aurobindo has infused in Savitri something that is extraordinary. It changes every cell of your consciousness. And how do you prepare for a new species unless there is a complete change of consciousness? Savitri was the last thing that Sri Aurobindo, the last book Sri Aurobindo worked on. I remember Niruddha telling me that, he called him, he was not able, his eyesight was not so good. And he kept telling Niruddha, I want to work on Savitri. And then at the last minute, when Niruddha said, you've done this, but you've left the epilogue, you haven't revised that. And then Sri Aurobindo said, no, leave that. Leave that. And he felt he had done what he had to do. So can you imagine what he has left for us? And the roadmap that you've asked for the future, I think it's everything, it's karma yoga, it's jnana yoga, it's bhakti yoga, it's, dhyana yoga, everything, the four tapasyas, all of that is in Savitri. And every other book embellishes that. You could read Synthesis of Yoga, you could read The Life Divine, the letters on yoga, the mother's words. All of this together form the body of knowledge that can take you into the future. But Savitri is the guide. Savitri is the way. Savitri is the future. Sorry, I didn't hear that. What did it?
Jai Shri, can you hear me?
Yes, hi Jayashree, yes.
Amita, I want to thank you firstly because I was closely associated with the Gnostic Center. Amita was my mentor and guide. And I remember we used to read Savitri with you. And that's how my journey started. So thank you, Amita. It's been such an honor for me to hear you during this retreat. I just have one question, Anita, and that was you said there is no Satyavan. Can you please explain a little bit more on that?
Well, I didn't say that. Tammy Ben told me that. But yes, there is some truth in that because uh, if you look at when you read what Sri Aurobindo has written in the preface of Savitri, he has written that I have used some of these characters as symbols. They are allegories, he's used that word. So really speaking, each character is also a symbol of something. And Satyavan is the vehicle through which Savitri attains this highest consciousness, where she can conquer death and immortalize herself and the earth. And therefore, Satyavan is known as if you look at various passages of Savitri, Sri Aurobindo writes even, soul of the earth. Satyavan is the aspiration of the earth for immortality, the highest human consciousness, the soul of 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 humanity that is aspiring for a new age, for a new consciousness, for immortality. And Savitri, her power of love, and Savitri, as you know, is the incarnation of the Divine Mother. That love is what can bring forth this new world, this new consciousness, but not a love that is selfish and egoistic and narrow, but a love that can encompass the entire universe, a love that is impersonal, is identified with the Supreme. So that is a love that, we as human beings, we need to learn that, we need to imbibe that, we need to change our petty human consciousness to that consciousness of, uh, of pure love that Savitri embodies. And I want to mention to you that, I've been reading Savitri now since very long time. Every week we read Savitri every Saturday. And I probably have read the book, well, too many times, but I can tell you in the first 10 years of reading Savitri, or 5 years, I can say, I never understood a word. So I would just keep reading, and I knew there were passages and passages I was reading out, which made no sense to me. But as I continued persistently reading it, not giving it up. So when the book finished, I restarted it. When it finished, I restarted it, and reading out loud. And we used to come in a satsang together and read it once a week. What started happening? Suddenly, I found, the illuminations. Those passages were illuminated. The meanings were just, it was as though I was seeing it in front of me. So I couldn't understand from not understanding. How did I get to such a high level of comprehension? And the only way I can explain that is the new consciousness, the new brain cells, the new cells that it forms in the body, in the mind, in the vital. And that is why read Savitri. Don't ever give up.
Once I was able to get back to reading, first time I read a certain line that resonated, struck out, so I put a post-it on that page. And through the whole reading of Savitri, we have these tags, put on pages, which are certain lines resonated. When I finished reading and I went back and read again, those lines didn't come back to me the same way. Now new lines were being standing out. So a new postmark for the second time I read it. And now that I'm reading lines, something totally different is coming straight, cut and paste, and combining all the things that are resonating with me now that I'm reading it. So it's an internal fountain. It's like the ocean. You try to pick out a few things, and every time you go in there. Every time you read it, you're like going to the ocean and picking out a few things.
Yes, can you hear me, Anita?
Sorry?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I just want to underscore one point about the mantric quality. Okay. I just want to underscore one point about the mantric, or maximizing the mantric quality of reading solitude. If one reads it but not aloud, one is still engaged in a mental exercise of trying to compute the meaning of the words and phrases and symbols. And so there's no resonance, auditory resonance, no vibrational impact. So it's critical to actually read it aloud to get the maximum mantric effect.
Yes, that's absolutely. One has to read Savitri aloud because it's a mantra, and because it's a new consciousness, new vibration. It has to enter into the consciousness. Reading Savitri aloud is very, very important. And of course, you can also read it silently, but when you read it with resonance and the auditory sense, like Sri Aurobindo said, the rhythm that I have created has as much value as the meaning in the word.
We've got one more question here, or comment, Anita.
Can you hear me? Sure. Thank you. Yeah, this is Shafik. I guess I stood up and I blanked out on what I wanted to share. Savitri at work, maybe. Yeah, Amitaji, thank you. I want to just say I want to honor you for who you are showing up as in the world, who you're being, and what you do. And on the same, I wanted to share an announcement on a group that we facilitate. We call it Aurobindo, and this is to all my beloved brothers and sisters here. Aurobindo, Chit, consciousness, and we are also registering it as an entity here in the US. And we do readings of Savitri in the mother's voice every fortnight, and we also have Vedic chants every fortnight. And the alternate fortnight, Sakshi Trust, especially Dr. Nagendra, comes and shares about Vedas and the Devas. We started with Agni, and any poignant or profound questions that come up to facilitate deeper understanding of Rig Veda, which is the core and heart of everything. So we go there as it is. We call through Agni, through within. I don't know why I'm sharing this. It was not in my plan consciously. But yeah, so anyone interested before Sunday noon, please feel free to get in touch with me and we can get you on board on the group. But yeah, Amitaji, thank you very much. Probably we'll get in touch when Divine will grow to calls me to. So thank you.
Thank you, and I think we would also like to say, since we're making announcements here for a second, Amita, is that prior to the Sunday meeting of our chip, which I know Vladimir's been attending on a regular basis, we also have Savitri reading with Nandit at 9:30 every Sunday morning for half an hour. So also, you're all welcome if you're not part you sharing your journey of Savitri, and very enlightening to hear your messages. We really appreciate you coming today and yesterday and being part of the Integrity Yoga Conference here. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you so much.